Hi everybody. Great job so far keeping up. This is my first video lesson, so I'm going to try to do it in one take. Bear with me. We have learned, talking about thermochemistry, just the heat involved in chemical reactions, and there's this what I call the golden rule of chemistry. It's on here that when heat is involved in a reaction, it either makes the temperature change or it makes the phase change, which is melting or boiling or freezing. Okay, but they can't do both at the same exact time. So this chart, it's really important. This is called a step chart because it looks like steps, okay? And it shows us when you add heat and what happens with the temperature, okay? So if you look at this chart, can you tell the parts of the chart where the temperature is changing, where the temperature changes? I'm going to give you a second. Good. Yes, you should have picked the slopey parts. And those parts where it slopes, that's when the temperature is actually changing. Can you check which parts of the graph are the phase changes? Exactly. The flat parts. Okay, right here, it's at 0 degrees and it stays at 0 degrees. When the temperature is not changing, that's when the phase is changing. It's melting or it's boiling or it's freezing. We did a lab a long time ago where we boiled ice and you saw that phenomenon. We heated it up and the temperature went up, and when it started melting, the temperature kind of plateaued, and then when the liquid started to boil, the temperature went up again, and then we kind of lost it. But theoretically, when it's boiling, the temperature's not changing. So you got temperature changes are these slopey parts, and phase changes are the flat parts where the temperature's not changing, just staying at those temperatures. Okay, so that said, we've learned two formulas, which you all look really good at and turning in your homework. It looks like you understand what I'm talking about. There's two formulas. And this is not part of your notes, but I kind of broke it down so that you can see it this way. Can you read that?
Yeah.
Okay. So if heat is causing a temperature change, we use this formula, Q equals mc delta T. It looks like the word meat. But if the temperature's changing, that's the formula that you use. I'm going back to your notes because it's good for you to be able to use these notes. M stands for mass, grams. Delta T is change in temperature, T final minus T initial, and that C depends, okay? If you're talking about water below 0 degrees Celsius, and by the way, we will always be talking about water or ice or steam. We're not going to get into the specific heat of other chemicals, just water, ice, and steam. So if it's below 0, and on this step chart, below 0, ice it's a solid, so we use the C for ice. If the temperature is above 100, it's vapor, so we use the C for steam. And if it's between 0 and 100, then it's liquid water, then we use the C for liquid water. Okay? Now the other formula that we learned is this delta H times N. So those parts where the temperature is not changing, it's changing phase, and we're calculating Q. We use this other formula, Q equals delta H times N. Now, in that one, the N stands for number of moles, and the delta H depends, okay? So the delta H, that's what this is to help you with. If you're going from solid to liquid, you use the delta H fusion. If you're going from liquid to solid, you use the negative delta H fusion. If you're going from from liquid to gas, you use the delta H vaporization. And if you're going the other direction, it's the negative delta H of vaporization. So for that one, you have to figure out which delta H you use, and it depends on what phase change is happening. Okay, now, what we've been doing, that's the review, because we've been doing one or the other. But today, we're combining them into, when you add enough heat, like you could add enough heat that you get a temperature change, then a phase change, then another temperature change, and that could happen. And that was The notes I had you copy on Friday, simple steps. If you add enough heat and it causes a temperature change and a phase change, you have to do each calculation and then add them together. So you should have also copied this, because this is super helpful so that you know which formula to use and when. Okay, so I'll be using this. I'll be following these steps. So at any time, if you get stuck, go back to these 6 steps. Okay? And here is how you do it. I'll show you how to follow the steps and how you use this. And in case anybody's worried, the values of C and delta H, you don't have to memorize. They will always be on your test, or you'll have them in your notes to look at. Okay, so now get out this handout. This is today's handout, and this is today's lesson.